Hello, everyone. Today we talk to country music star Felix Truvere. We talk about his road to success and we delve into the business part of country music. You don't want to miss this episode, so stay tuned.
Coming to you from San Antonio, Texas. Welcome to The Creative Entrepreneur, a podcast created to help entrepreneurs build their business. Branding, marketing, analytics, positioning, and lead generation, plus interviews with other business owners to learn from their successes and failures. Now, here is your host, Abel Garza.
Welcome back, everyone, to The Creative Entrepreneur, and today we have Felix Truvere, singer-songwriter, producer. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great.
Awesome. I'm so excited to have you on the show today. We're going to talk a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, but I also want to delve into how you're marketing your business, your brand, who you market to, who you network with, and how you go about in running your business as a singer-songwriter.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about what you do.
My purposes for doing this originally, I think, are totally different now than what they were when I started. That might actually be the case for anybody who jumps into a business. They kind of discover themselves as an artist, maybe, if you will, to realize that there's a certain thing that they love about what they do. And for me, this kind of came together as I was doing my business, and I don't see anything wrong with that. You know, we're always discovering ourselves and who we are and what our purposes are. But when I originally decided to do this, I was actually made kind of famous a little bit by MySpace Karaoke, the actual social media giant back in the day before Facebook took over the social media world. They had a little karaoke thing that they were doing. It was only audio technology about 12 years ago, if you can place yourself 12 years ago. Just picking up my audio vocals and singing karaoke songs, and they liked what I sounded like, so they just started featuring me on their front page to advertise with. Just using posting my profile on the front and saying, "Hey, listen to this guy. This guy's great."
That's awesome.
So overnight, I had this fan base. You know, what do you do with that? You know, because I had about 5,000 people just suddenly add me, and that's in my mind, that was 5,000 good people that were just following, and that's a good base. I didn't really at the time see it that way. I think I was just riding the wave, if you will. I was a mortgage and loan underwriter trainer at USA Federal Savings Bank at the time. Had $1.5 million lending authority and was doing something totally different. But before I even talk about that career, before that career, I was a high school band director. I taught high school band for Northside ISD here in San Antonio.
Well, San Antonio's your home, man.
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
I've grown up here. I like it here. I'm comfortable here. I grew up with saying never be in your, a lot of band directors and leaders telling me never be in your comfort zone. But I've kind of found a little, as we get a little older in life, and, I've already experienced a couple of careers here. I think it was time for me doing what I love to do. This overstated cliche statement said 1 billion times, follow your heart. Once I started following my heart and just pursuing my own passions, all the dreams that I used to chase seemed to start coming toward me more.
Yeah. So this is full-time. You do this full-time.
This is full-time. Right? This is all I do. I wouldn't have it any other way. I have been a slave to life, if you will, in the daily gridiron, waking up to an alarm clock and fighting the traffic in the morning, going and having a day job. And obviously nothing entrepreneur about that, working for another person. But I think I was just one of those individuals that followed society's rules of, in order to be successful, you're supposed to have a full-time day job, and have a 401k and take your family on vacation every summer and just kind of fit into this plan that seems to be laid out for everybody and this ideal person. And I broke away from that.
And how long ago did you do that?
This is about 10 years ago that I went ahead and made this leap of faith, if you will, and just kind of dove into let's see what the bigger picture of the universe has in store for me here.
So we're in the trajectory of your career right now, from the time that you started to now to making that decision. Where do you feel you stand right now? Where there's nothing.
I like it. I like it because I like where I am. And this is where I say, there are probably a lot of entrepreneurs listening to this, and they're either going to think I'm crazy or that I run a terrible business, or they're going to start to see my perspective and the angle that I'm coming from, because I seem to more regulate my workload toward my happiness. I had to really define what truly is happiness? Is it getting more gigs in my job, getting more work, or is it spending more time with my family and actually getting to utilize my money? Appreciate the moment of now rather than always living in my head, stressing about the future, work, just always scheduling, always just kind of just trapped in your mind, if you will, always thinking about how can I get better. I came to this revelation that, the grass is always going to be greener in the mind somewhere else. The mind, we battle our own minds here and sometimes become very self-destructive psychologically over such a thing, always thinking that we haven't got enough yet. There's more stuff for me to go out and get. What is it, money? Is it fame? Once you have done this for a little while, you start to see that everything that you have is pretty good right in front of you. I mean, I've got this beautiful front porch. We're having this conversation in my home right now.
Exactly. Beautiful home, by the way.
Thank you. And I'm paying for it still. This is the house that I had when I was a mortgage and loan underwriter. I bought it as a VA foreclosure because I was a trainer at a bank of mortgage underwriting. I knew all the rules, and I was training underwriters to pull credit reports and make these decisions. I knew how to buy a house, and that's just kind of one of those steps that help you. If you've got the right mortgage, and the right mortgage payment, you can pretty much just quit your job and do anything almost.
Exactly.
So I've got the place to live with a good mortgage payment. I think that's important for any business person. Make sure that your standard of living is a good debt to income ratio that you can manage. I'm very happy where I am. My daughter lives here with me. I just got full custody of her a couple months ago, and that's
congratulations.
Thank you very much. And state of Texas, it's hard for a dad to do,
yes.
Especially a Texas country artist.
Yes.
I mean, there's whatever they decide to decorate me with that, or whatever stereotypical ideas the judge might have about me. I champion that judge for looking beyond that and actually seeing me to be a well credible individual with a good mind on his shoulders, and I'm not just out partying and doing band shows all the time. There's an actual goal and a purpose for what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
So how do I feel about where I am right now? I'm very happy. I'm very comfortable. It does get a little overwhelming for me sometimes. As you walked in here, you saw me on my laptop here, wondering. Yeah, it's like
for a creative entrepreneur, you're doing what you want to do. And there's times where, for example, you're sitting in bed and your mind is just going.
Yeah.
It's just going and
Always.
going and going. And especially as a creative, you're thinking of new songs, new ideas, where you're going to go, the trajectory of your career. So it's just continually evolving. I want to know, I was listening to some of your songs, which I have my favorite.
Thanks. Yeah. Cool.
Which one are you most proud of?
Fake It Till I Make It and Learn to Be, just because philosophically they say where I am. What I really appreciate about what I'm doing here is that this is my real life. If you look at my music videos, that's my real life. That's my real other half. That's my real daughter. That's my real everything, and or my real situation. It's a situation I've been through. How tough has it been to put my real life out there? It is kind of tough when people really, there's a lot of people I don't know out there that are watching my music videos, and that's something else as an entrepreneur I wanted to do, is I wanted to be able to perform on YouTube without ever aging, I'm always performing for somebody without actually taking a step outside my door when you got a YouTube channel. So I make sure to put good, colorful, well-produced music videos out there that really describe where I was going with the angle of this song, to really illustrate, because people are becoming more visual these days, and so
they sure are.
Yeah, and so and I know especially for the kids, and the kids are what's selling everything right now. So who is my base also? I embrace it all. I really do. I find a way to cater to every little piece of it, and I never feel like have any shortcomings of it, because anything that doesn't really work, my perspective of everything is always something to grow on. There's always going to be growing pains, doors shut in your face, and to me, any door that shuts in your face is always a signal of another door opening, always, every time, and it's up to me to find it.
So how many albums you got out right now?
I've got 2 full-length albums out there right now. I released a couple of EPs, but even on the I took some of those songs that were on the EPs because I don't stick to the game plan here. I'm very creative, as you say. When I printed my last CD, and you actually now talking about a physical CD, not something that's in your phone, you have to ask yourself as an entrepreneur, well, where does these physical CDs lie with us anymore? I mean, because if I'm going to spend money on making this physical product, do people even have CD players in their cars anymore? They're not, I don't think they're making CD players in cars anymore, but that affects me as an artist and somebody who makes their money off of selling CDs. So I have to find value in printing an actual full-length album. So what I did was, if you look at my album, it'll say in small print, special collection disc. You've got to give your fans something of value. So they're going to get, your good old classic nostalgic, you're selling nostalgia here, because I'm always shooting for this 90s country sound that you're also going to get, because it's a sound that's gone away in today's market. So that's another point that, you always got to find those angles that you have. I'm 45 years old. I know George Strait. I know Tracy Lawrence. I know how those songs were written. I've opened for Dean Dillon, George Strait songwriter. I know how to produce these. I have a music degree. All these things kind of fell in place. I used to be a mortgage and loan underwriter, so I know how to not get myself in trouble with debt too much. Too much, I say, because I am an artist, and I do borrow money to get from point A to point B when it means that much to me. But basically, I put 21 songs on that last CD. That's as many as I could fit, information-wise, on an actual disc. And I did that because I needed my fans to show some value, have something I could sell for $20 at my shows, and say, hey, there's 21 tracks for $20. You also get my signature on it. And
so when you're putting together an album, is there some direction on that album? Is there a theme to it?
I think the theme kind of happens on its own, because we're talking about my life here, and we're really dissecting any human being's life. I don't write the song unless it's relatable, unless it's an experience someone else has gone through, and I try to make those experiences almost fine-tuned to where it's like, oh, I really know what he's talking about there. But the name of my band is called The Open Road, and what does the open road mean? The road represents life. And if you've seen my logo, there's also a cross on the side of that road. That cross represented a lot of things for me, because when I started actually playing physical gigs and getting out there and putting myself in front of a band, there was a cross on the side of the road on the way to Bandera, Texas, where I got my start at the Longhorn Saloon. And Brian Black, who's Clint Black's brother, started hiring me to open up for his best acts. He really liked my talent. He liked that I had 90s country music that other people weren't playing. But anyways, going back to my whole premise of what my CDs are about, the open road represents life. The cross on the side of the road represents this goal, or either God traveling with you, because that just tends to be the mindset of a lot of people. Where is this goal? What is this finish line that we're trying to accomplish? I've been trying to say throughout it that it's not a race to get to the finish line. There's no competition here against each other. We are all the consciousness of God. We're all one, and we all should be helping each other get to that finish line together, rather than fighting each other, because there's nothing that comes out of that. We're just destroyers that way. There's creators and there's destroyers. There are those. There's another song I wrote. I don't know if it's okay. You can just edit it if you. But "Thou Shalt Not Bitch" is another song that I wrote.
I just listened to that.
Yes.
Actually, it's a catchy tune, man. I'm telling you, because I'm like, should I play this for? Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
I'm going to say,
catchy tune,
well, let's, just the intent and what I'm trying to say here is, let's appreciate what we have. Let's stop this this self-destructive behavior of constantly complaining about the things that we don't have, and start appreciating for a moment the things that we do have that are right in front of us. Because, like I said, the grass is always greener in the mind. We're always fishing for something better, thinking, because as soon as we get this major prize we've been after, maybe I got that #1 single finally, and it made #1 on Texas radio on the charts. Now what? We put it in the closet and it collects dust, and we're like, where do we go from here? And then we find out there's this, like a lot of artists do, they go into this depression because they're always trying to chase that #1 again. So I'm always like, well, how do you feel? I'm happy. Why? Because I'm sitting at number 22, number 23. I don't spend too much money on all that advertising and stirring pots and politics of making sure that there's a lot of extra work that I could do, and I could kill myself doing all this extra legwork to get to climb through those 20s and get to that number one spot or the top 5 spot. I've got a lot of friends that get number ones that I write with, other Texas country artists, and I see them working too hard personally. Mm-hmm. I see them not enjoying their personal lives as much as they could be.
Balance is key.
Balance is key. And that's why I say people are either going to think I'm a terrible business guy or my perspective is just genius.
You're not the first person to say that. In fact, a lot of entrepreneurs, that is the key to being a successful entrepreneur, which is balancing your work and personal life.
Yes, sir. And you hit it right. The personal life to me is really what it's all about here, because I've defined my business to be more happiness than it is money. You know, money does help, obviously, because when we're struggling with that and we can't pay our bills, things get very, very stressful. So like you said, there is a balance there. I do have to take phone calls when I'm around the clock. People will call me just whenever they're ready to book a band in a venue, whatever it is, and that's any time of the day. I leave my phone on. Sometimes I'll decide to answer it or not answer it, just depending on my mood, because if my mood is not right when the phone's ringing, I know it's better to just go ahead and let the voicemail get it or let a text come in where I can answer it with a better mind, because it also doesn't help you to be in a self-destructive mode or be in a bitchy mode, whatever it is, and try to take.
No, we can go ahead and cuss. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. You know.
We call it like it is.
Yeah. But you know, it's balance. You know, I've really had to. You know, I almost came up with a mission statement towards my process, because a lot of my songs are helping others with anxiety, if you will. This Learn to Be song that I have out right now, this waltz about just learning to be. We fight our mind all the time as human beings. We're never happy with ourselves, or we're never happy with things that we just... You can scroll through Facebook and see what the competition is doing and just let it, that doesn't happen to me anymore. I remember when it used to happen to me, but I'm glad that I've matured enough to get beyond to not worry about what other people are thinking. Oh, he plays in San Antonio all the time. He doesn't get out and play in Dallas. I don't see him in Dallas. Well, that's because Dallas pays me the same money that San Antonio does here, and there's plenty of places to play here in San Antonio with this very rich live music community. You just saw me playing at Traders Village, San Antonio. There's not many bands here in this city that are playing venues like that. I'm very family oriented. You were talking about how do I brand myself. People have gotten used to the cowboy hat, the old traditional cowboy hat. It's a nostalgia that I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm selling here. I think when you hear some of the reminiscent songs that I'm singing, as far as my cover tunes go, oh, there's somebody at the door. How about that? That never happens. But when you come to my shows, people have gotten used to seeing the cowboy hat, the cowboy clothes. I guess I have this George Strait, Clay Walker, Tracy Lawrence-y kind of Rick Trevino kind of look about me that people aren't really seeing as much anymore. This red dirt country is something different. Yeah. That's not really country to me, and I don't mind saying that. I know, if you play red dirt, that's fine. I have nothing against it.
It's just, it's who you are, Yeah. And I see what's coming out right now is I see you're a motivator, and it comes out in your. I mean, you're almost getting emotional, which is great because you're gonna make me cry. I don't know what it's going
something
on.
Very that's the old high school band director in me. Yeah. I was a high school band director because I wanted to motivate kids to get out of music what I got from it, because what I got out of music was something great. I really learned what working together as a team can accomplish with, and feel proud of it. Just be proud of who you are. Pride was something I'm not as prideful anymore these days, but I think there is a base of being a hard worker that we have to learn as kids. We have to make up our beds in the morning. We have to pick up after ourselves. I was taught that discipline growing up, and then when you're older, you can relax about it. I think I guess my ticket into heaven when I started being a band director was just making good people. I was the drum major of my band. I was in drama, choir, one-act competitions, always just striving to be the best. I really motivated myself on just how much could I accomplish, how many things could I be in, how many things could I do. And yeah, I mean, definitely this is obviously something I feel very strongly about. It's I do have a passion for what I'm doing here, and I'm trying to help others. Just to put it very simply, I don't advertise that's my purpose. I kind of let people just kind of find that out on their own. I think once I start describing what I'm actually doing, I've had people tell me, "Oh, you're way over explaining this." There is a big picture here. I do want people to get something out of this. I do want people to realize that they can pick themselves back up. There are folks that don't realize that a lot of the joy in life comes from being able to pick yourself back up after falling down. I describe life to folks as I said, like I described life as a road. It's a windy, bumpy, crazy road. It's a roller coaster ride, if you will. Mm-hmm. There are people that actually, live for that roller coaster ride. Roller coasters go up and down, and that's what makes them fun. If there was no ups and downs, in order to appreciate the ups, you have to know the downs, and that's just kind of the way it is. Now we've got a jet flying over. Yeah, welcome to my house.
Oh, it's okay.
But life has ups and downs. You can't appreciate the ups without knowing the downs. You can't appreciate an air-conditioned room without walking in from a hot, sweaty summer day. So does bliss and happiness work the same way. There's no way to have that measurable difference in between. It's always something. That's another song I've written. Mm-hmm. It's always something. You've got to expect those doors to slam in your face. When you fall down, it's all about getting up again and finding that open door of opportunity. So I celebrate those moments sometimes when things go bad, because it's reached a point for me where I challenge myself to find the next door of open opportunity. Because every time something, call it bad, I don't know, they're just experiences. They're experiences. And, who conditioned us to see it as bad? It's up to us to go ahead and kind of flip that around if you're going to be positive and go forward. Mm-hmm. So I move forward a lot of times down that open road, because it's a big open road of opportunity, and it's up to you. You can go this way or you can go that way, and the choice is yours. Yeah. Are we going to drink ourselves because that happened and maybe go in reverse, or are we going to move forward and find that open door of opportunity? And, because, I take it as that door was closed on you for good reason. Call it God, call it the universe, whatever you want to see it. I guarantee you, though, that happened for good reason, and that's for you to move on and to find something that is better in store for you, that the universe has planned for you, if you will.
That's awesome. And, I'd like to talk a little bit about how you market yourself. You talked about, building mm-hmm. value and creating value with your customers.
Yes.
Okay. Over the course of your career, how have you evolved in marketing yourself? Because I know it's a difficult thing to do.
I love the word evolved, because it has evolved. I think when I started this business, I was chasing fans. Not necessarily, I've let it come more to me, and that's a harder thing to do because it takes patience and it takes time. But I don't literally go out there putting myself out there all the time. The way I tend to do it is I like to let my fans do this for me. I like the source of information about me to come from other people. That means that my performance has to be on the money every single time. There are things that we have to do to make sure that people are talking about us. That means that we can't afford to drop the ball. We do need to cross our T's and dot our I's. I need every performance to be on point. I need my band to be on point. Being a high school band director, and I didn't mention, but a drum corps national world champion with the Cadets of Bergen County from Bergenfield, New Jersey, as a mellophone player, just some other whole different thing I did that I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. But that instilled discipline and hard work in me. How do I market? Facebook is great because people, there's a lot of followers. I'm just, I don't want to put down the people that are on Facebook or to speak badly about that whole family, because I've got my whole family and that's my bread and butter. I go ahead and let myself be tagged to all the good stuff. If I see something bad, I won't accept it on my timeline or whatever it is. But I just make sure that people are sharing what they see. The pictures that are being put out there are all appealing. I'm always smiling. I'm always being positive. And I let that do its work for me. I feel like the more I say me, I disassociate with people. I think people tend to disconnect and say, well, he doesn't make me feel like me. I'm not as comfortable, or I don't feel as personable with him. I've made myself very personable. I go down and I talk to my crowd. I sing to the people. I've got a wireless microphone. I get very up close and personal. I don't disappear during my set breaks. I go out and I talk to my fans, and very honestly, I don't feel this movie star privilege that I think I see a lot of artists really with this narcissistic behavior. They really think that the red carpet needs to be rolled out for them, and those kind of attitudes I just don't get off to. I'm very much a people person. I'm always down there. I think I met you just kind of chilling, walking around and talking to my fans, and and we were taking pictures, and people go home with the pictures, and it prompts somebody to say, "Oh, who's that? Oh, this is Felix Truvere," and suddenly someone else is doing the sales for me. I'm not selling a thing. I am making good music, and I'm putting it out to radio. I'm doing what I can to make sure that radio is playing my stuff. I've spent a lot of money on radio promoters to do this, and it's been something that I've not really been too happy with because there's so much politics involved with it. I don't like politics playing its place in art, but I think that's just kind of how it goes these days. There's a lot of money floating around out there, and there's a lot of people backing artists, and they want to see their artists do well, so they put that money where it goes. If they're buying advertisement from that radio station, well, obviously that's going to get a lot more spins than I can get. So it takes money to, those politics of buying ads.
I didn't really realize that there was so much politics involved with that.
Oh, yeah. there's I think the number, for a song to hit number one on the chart, it's some crazy amount of 2,000 spins that's not even possible in a week. Radio stations will go ahead and float that number of spins more than, it's not possible to play a song 3 times every hour, and if you are, then gosh, but that's kind of where it's at here. You either have legitimate spins or you have some of those tagged on spins that buying ads, like I said, from the radio station will do, or sponsorships, and those sponsorships are catering or whatever it could be. There are a handful, there are some radio promoters, and I don't mind saying the names. Rick Hogan, he's one of the big ones. Trying to think of the names, it doesn't matter. But there are 2 or 3 radio promoters that get you those number ones. They charge a lot of money to the artist. You just come up with, if you want the number one, those are the guys. They'll either take you, or they've got too heavy of a clientele workload. I paid a lot of money to one radio promoter who just had too much of a clientele. He was getting a lot of money from a lot of artists, and it becomes very hard to promote 20 artists on an email. And which one do we prefer here? And so there's always preferential treatment, and it's just hard to get out of. The fact that my songs are making number 22 and 23 just kind of on their own merit.
That is phenomenal.
I'm happy with that.
So that brings me to another question. What platforms are you using other than just traditional radio? I heard you on Spotify.
YouTube, because it's free. There's a lot of artists that they take it personal if there's somebody streaming their song on YouTube and they're not paying any money for it. I don't have a problem with that. That's a different philosophy for me too, because I don't really need to get paid for my song. If people are walking around the street and they're singing my song in their head, that means they heard it somewhere. I'm all about just getting my songs heard, and the rest will come. So let's not lose ourselves here in trying to make pennies with a couple of streams, or somebody ripping a song or whatever. I give my CDs away. If I see kids, supporting Texas country, and I'll go walk right over and hand them one of my CDs. What am I going to lose on that? I give demo CDs away free all the time. I don't mind. Gosh, that's money I paid a long time ago. It's already, I don't care. I really don't care. I'm happy. Yeah. What do I define happiness as? It's, people are actually singing my songs. If it's playing in their car and they're playing it out to everybody, that's free advertising to me. They're playing it loud. Please play it loud. and play it free. I don't care.
What has been the most challenging part of this whole trajectory of your career?
I would say the politics and the people. They're I guess there are different ideas out there that float around sometimes, and just suggestions, and but I've learned the balance and all that. I'd say the hardest thing is just really the politics, and just dealing with knowing that I don't play at that venue because this artist that is sponsored by that alcohol brand knows that I'm sponsored by this alcohol brand, and so I'll never probably play there, and just kind of dealing with things like that. And you're going to find that anywhere. It's just the politics in art, because when I decided to be an artist, I really didn't think there was going to be politics, or that other bands would take a competitive spirit toward you, much like Dallas Cowboys versus 49ers. Everybody has this very competitive spirit about everything. And I do cater to a crowd that loves football. Come on, I'm a country artist, and everybody loves football, and they just love being competitive. So I wasn't prepared really for when I came out here and did this, that people were going to be like, oh, it's this artist versus that big San Antonio artist. Oh, well, I support this one. Oh, well, I support this one. Well, I'm wearing my shirt, and then, we both play at the same venue one day, and then all our fans are just sitting there acting like there's some sporting event happening, and that's not at all the case. I have a bigger purpose for my music, and it's that. And so just kind of seeing this competitive spirit, which is why you hear in some of my songs, there's one I wrote called Quantum Cowboy, where I just say there's no race, no competition, breathe in and close your eyes to see. Close your eyes to see. Very.
Well, what is some good advice that you would give somebody coming into the industry, somebody who's got the voice, they want to put the word out there, they want to write.
If they have the voice, and they've got the talent and it's already there, just keep doing you. Don't watch another artist and try to do what they're doing, because that's them. And you're never going to steal their fan base by trying to act like them, because a lot of artists get jealous when they see another guy's fan base, or they say, oh, well, come and see my show. Most fans that are wearing Dallas Cowboy jerseys are not going to go put on a 49ers jersey. They're just not.
Makes sense.
I got to a certain point where I realized that these people that are doing, I need to create my own fan base. So I just started doing me, becoming very, very humble about what I was doing, and just playing as much as I could, as often as I could, wherever I could get it, and always doing me. There's little cringy things about yourself that as an artist, I don't like that about my voice, or I don't like that about my look. That's called unique character that makes you who you are. There are a lot of people that think it's all about the voice and it's all about singing. I'll be the first one to tell you that I'm not selling a beautiful church voice here, a choir voice. I'm selling a personality and a story. And when you tell that story, it's much like Pixar animations. I am voice acting in that. And I am I'm singing with that, all the emotion that I felt when I wrote that song. So you're getting my interpretation, and I'm putting on a movie for you. The best singers that I've ever, like Anne Hathaway in Les Miserables.
Okay.
It's the most amazing performance of I Dreamed a Dream I've ever seen, and she's not a singer, she's an actress, and she sold that with just the most amazing heart, just in tears, and it was all in one take too, and I'm blown away still by that performance.
I'm gonna have to check it out.
Yeah, the best, and Hugh Jackman can sing too. What? I'm finding all these actors can sing. Yeah. Well, you find out that these guys don't just have talent. These guys are very talented. They can mock anything. They can act anything out, and they sell that emotion. They have pitch inside of them. They can hear pitch. But I was kind of blown away to see your best singers are really actors and actresses, and that's kind of what I do in the studio. I'm not speaking with much of a country voice right now, yet when you listen to my songs, you're going to hear that, and like I said, we're selling nostalgia these days. Disney does that. That's what they do. They sell us nostalgia. They're selling us our memories, and so I bank pretty hard on my 90s country music, because if people listening to country, there's an image that goes along with that, and I make sure they see that image. My logo was also a very big thing. I was very, making something catchy that identifies with my image, the Texas flag, Felix Truvere, and just, we're country. I do not, I also have a very, very good balance. as someone who sees balance in good traditional values, good traditional conservative values, but also good evolving, liberated, free mind, okay, if you go too far to one side of the seesaw, it's going to tip very heavily that way. And you know what? The other side ends up having to go very far on the other side to balance that out. So we have to be very careful that we find this middle ground again. Absolutely. And become balanced and understand that there's checks and balances here, and that we are both watching the other side. I mean, as I go about my day, just my average daily business, I'm a little bit dismayed to see the fighting going on here, because they go so extreme to one side just to try to balance it back out, and it causes a lot of fight. All of us have that balance on the inside. It's yin yang. Like I said, you can't appreciate an air-conditioned room without walking in from a hot summer.
I think eventually it comes back anyways. It may tilt over, but it's gonna teeter back the other way.
It always is going to, and it has to. There's no other way to do it. It's got to be balanced, and so I'm usually very, very quiet about that. I help people to manage themselves through their decisions on how they strike. Mm-hmm. There's no need to strike sometimes.
So you talk about doing you, or being yourself. Mm-hmm. Are you networking with any other artists, or are you networking with other people that are helping you?
Right now, I've just started to test the grounds. I think I was, in particular, a bit kind of hard by that competitive spirit when I started, because there were other artists that saw me as a competitor when I went into this business, and they were already in the business for years. Working at the same venue, let's say Stetson Bar or Thirsty Horse Saloon, and suddenly we're back in the '80s, and it's like Prince, Purple Rain, the movie Purple Rain, and there's only this bar is only big enough for one band, and it's like these two bands. He's like, you got the Morris Day the Time, and you've got the Kid, Prince, and the Revolution, kind of going at war with each other here over who's going to perform on that stage. I think that's so silly, but I was bit so hard by that when I started that I kind of just, there was this conditioning that I was conditioned to kind of almost feel like every artist saw me as a competitor, and that really made me quiet. It really made me quiet. It just made me do you. And but recently, as I've been working in this business and gaining, I guess, a lot of accolades for myself or whatever it is, people are respecting what I'm doing and putting out more albums, showing that I can write, showing that I can produce. I'm not just a karaoke guy. That was the big thing, is that I came from MySpace karaoke, and a lot of artists that were playing their guitars on stage. Who's this karaoke guy? Yeah. There's no room for karaoke and live music. And so I got made fun of quite a bit when I started this. And it was very vicious, because social media just started, and social media was a place you could just bully somebody to death with their fans. So the fans of the existing artists just bullied me to death. And this town is only so big, with so many country fans watching live music. So I was on the lowly scale, having to prove myself as a karaoke artist. So how do I respond to that? I have a music degree, man. So it's not easy to do, but I wrote a bunch of songs by myself, and I went to the studio, produced them by myself, made sure they sounded. I found out by doing that, if you're just a karaoke guy, and you've been working in a bank and you've been a high school band director, you don't necessarily know how they make songs in the studio. But I found out very fast that I could speak that language. But I found out very fast that I knew the language of these studio engineers. I could actually speak with them. And I saw the studio engineer sit up in his chair really, really tall and be like, oh my gosh, this guy knows what he's talking about. I can't just wing this and just give him a CD. He's actually going to come back and say, oh, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. The fiddle's out of tune right here, and we need to adjust this. No, okay. The vocals aren't quite lining up here on the harmonies. Let's line those up, and let's make sure that we've got a good Nashville quality representation here. Are you going to say those guys in Nashville can make better songs than we can in Texas? No, so I challenge my studio engineer. I become a band director in that producer room, and so I produce my own CDs. But that was the best thing I could do, is actually come out with my own album and show everybody, oh, look, I wrote all these songs and produced them, and oh, look, they're hitting the chart. That's pretty cool. And that was the best thing I could do, and I did so very silently. I didn't go out and brag about myself. I just put my songs out there and let everybody see it. and let all the people that were speaking say, oh, I haven't even done that yet. I'm still singing covers on stage, or I can't even strum a guitar for that matter.
Well, you definitely got tough skin.
I was a high school band director. And man, I've fallen down, right? And I had to learn how to get back up, and that builds tough skin. It builds a pretty good. But collaborating. I've also just recently, as my accolades have built here, I've been invited to write with some of the best songwriters in Texas. The Drew Fish Band songwriting retreat. I was invited to that by Drew Fish. I just randomly was at Thirsty Horse Saloon. They needed another songwriter to fill one of the stools. I got a phone call at the last minute to go fill that songwriting chair because I had just come out with an album, and sat in that chair, sang my original songs, and I had a whole row of stools there look over and say, "Who's this guy?" Yeah. And that took me to some high places. And you know what, man? God bless you, Drew Fish. Thank you so much, Drew Fish Band and Drew Fish, for not really knowing me. He had seen my name on the chart, and he listened to my stuff. He said he studied me. He said I was like 90s country music, just stepped right off the plane. And I was like, awesome. So my branding is working.
Yes.
Because that's how another artist making number ones in Texas radio saw me. And to hear that come from his mouth and just actually say, bro, you're really good. And, it's like, something I noticed about you, though, Felix, is like you listen to, you have more direction than you think you do. You kind of take that follower seat sometimes, and you just kind of observe. And he goes, I'd like you to be more. Yeah. Stand on your pedestal here and go ahead and tell us how to do this, because you have a lot more knowledge than you think you do.
Well, with all the haters out there, it's good to see that somebody can see your potential and help you and just know you just by hearing your voice, by the message that you're putting out there. It's nice to see that there's people out there that will give you that opportunity.
That's when that genuine smile comes out of me, because it makes me feel like everything that I've been doing here, to be humble, to be quiet about this, and not, because I didn't do this to compete with anybody. I mean, I had full-time careers. And I did this because this was more of a, after a second divorce, my goodness, that's personal life right there. It's hard to stand up again, and you become very humbled about the whole picture of life at that stage. I wasn't trying to prove anything to anybody. I just wanted to do what I love to do for a living, and to kind of see, at that stage, when, like I said, Facebook was brand new and everybody was just kind of having their heyday on Facebook, just posting whatever they want, and they felt like they could hide behind a computer. You can't really hide behind a computer anymore. People know that, you eventually run into that person. So it's kind of quieted down, but when I started, like I said, I had a hard time because I came from that karaoke world of MySpace. I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't performing on stages or anything. I was just a mortgage and loan underwriter trainer at the time, and so nobody really knew anything about that I was a band director, or that I was, they just saw this karaoke guy come in and start taking the gigs, if you will. I was like, who's this guy taking the gigs? Oh, he sings karaoke. You don't want to hire that guy. He's a karaoke guy, and
But those situations that you were put in,
they built me into who I am, and I see it that way. I absolutely do. I don't think I could have written Fake It Till I Make It without that. I don't think I could have written Learn to Be without that. I couldn't have written most of these songs. Thou Shalt Not Bitch, which won me Best Original Song at the San Antonio Music Awards for one of the first songs I've ever written. It's rewarding to see that, all this Disney stuff, Believe, keep moving forward. I'm a big fan of Walt Disney because of his all of that innovation and self-motivation, and it being intrinsic and lighting a fire under you to follow your heart. As I keep saying, an overstated cliche statement said a billion times for a very good reason. And just be careful about thinking that money and work constant is what success is. It's distracting to, it's a good distraction from life, but if you really want to appreciate life and appreciate your moments, just really start evaluating what your happiness is or where it is. Because if you're walking around just complaining all day, maybe just take a look at what's going on. And, you know, some people love to work, man. Like, I know you're a hard worker. You got all these businesses and, you know, and doing these podcasts, driving all the way to my house here from Converse. And
Yeah.
And
Hey, don't be telling people where I live.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't.
Well, that's a Converse is a big place. There's a lot of people there. So,
Yeah.
But you know, I appreciate you coming out here and just picking my brain a little bit. On
Man,
what
I
it is
really
I've been
appreciate
doing.
you coming on to the Creative Entrepreneur. I know we're just starting out, but you know what? It's a breath of fresh air to understand how creative entrepreneurs build their business, how they evolve, some of their failures, successes, and being able to communicate that with other entrepreneurs who are trying to build their business is essential, especially when you're starting out. Yeah. So for you to come on the Creative Entrepreneur, we are huge fans now.
That's great, man. Thank you.
I'm honored to be here with you. You're an inspiration to me and our listeners, and I thank you so much for coming on. And if we can do anything for you, please let us know.
I get all bashful about it. I would just big blush bomb for stuff like that because I never really know what to say. I'm just appreciative that I'm able to influence other people to this measure because this is what I wanted to do as a high school band director. I would be in tears talking to my kids all the time about this motivation and the easy path not always being the best path. Sometimes the best lived path is that crazy rocky one that you just, you know. So I just appreciate the influence that I'm having on people with my music and my philosophy. Like I told you when you came in here, I was like, I can't tell you a whole lot about business, but I can tell you a lot about the philosophy behind what I am doing as an entrepreneur and what it's meant to me. I respect other people. You know, I think first and foremost, I try my best to respect everybody, even when you're being told how to maybe don't do this or don't do that. You do too much of this or you do too much of that. Just still wearing my smile and saying I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best and I'm learning as I go. And nobody can take anything from you when you're just doing your honest best and putting your best foot forward.
Awesome.
So that's Fake It Till I Make It right there, you know, the song. But you told me you had a favorite. What was your favorite?
I think, what is it, Back in San Antonio?
Back to San Antonio. Yeah, that's a
Back
good
to
one.
San Antonio,
That's a beautiful song. You know, I actually am a co-writer on that one and that's interesting because it sounds so different from my other tunes, and it's why I went. The song had already been written and demoed by a buddy of mine named Evan Webb, who actually is the first person to get me into the studio and record. He's like, hey, man, he heard me singing karaoke somewhere is what he did, and this is about 12 years ago. And he said, I'd really like to get you into the studio to demo some of my music. It would help me a lot if I had a better voice on this stuff. So he pulled me into the studio, and I was like, I could do this. I understand how this works. And I started, taking over a little bit. And so I kind of modified a lot of the words and, and went in as kind of a co-writer on the thing. And it's like, are you okay with me doing this? And he's like, yeah, bro, I understand, man. If you're going to record this and put it on your CD, then of course,
Definitely.
So I modified a lot of the words and just kind of went on as a co-writer on this. And we made the music video. It followed my time, my personal life very well. With the little girl and there being my daughter, and you have expectations going into a relationship when you do, and then suddenly realizing you have different plans and that's just kind of how life ends up or works out sometimes. And how do you get through that? And then making that choice to follow this path instead of that path, always a very difficult choice to make because we get into our comfort zones, and we're all very comfortable sometimes with where we are, and sometimes it just, taking that step forward to get out of a situation is just the hardest thing in the world, and man, I have done that before, and it's very hard to do. That song is all about that.
Yeah.
Watch the music video.
Yeah, I did watch the music video.
Yeah, for everybody at home.
Video,
yeah.
And I watched the video and I listened to it on Spotify.
Passion in that one.
Yeah.
A lot of passion in that one.
Very nice song.
Yes, sir.
Nice song.
Yes, sir. I'd have to say that's another great song, but because I co-wrote that one, I guess if I'm talking about songs that I've written myself, I guess the Fake It Till I Make It just describes my family and what I've been doing it has not been financially easy when you're recording a CD and you're funding it yourself, because let's also keep in mind here that I don't have a label paying for everything for me. I'm having to do this myself. And while I was recording those CDs and actually throwing every dollar I had on that studio engineer's desk with my gig money, and saying, how many hours does this get me in the studio? And then just trying to work really fast and just being like a demon in there. And just that poor guy, like, I can't work with this guy. He's like he's like, I'm trying, Felix, I'm trying to, and I'm sending him emails right here on this spot right here. We need to do this and we need to do, you know what? I'm going to change my mind here. Let's go ahead and recur this fiddle theme over and over. We're going to, and so I'm sure I'm not the easiest guy to work with, but what's been really cool is watching the other studios come and try to hit me up to record my songs.
That's amazing.
It really is, and
that's amazing.
When you see that kind of respect coming, it does make you, as Drew Fish told me, stand up a little taller and you go ahead and be that director. Stop trying to not step on people's toes, because I do that a lot. Yeah, in this business, you can upset a musician diva really quick. You know what I mean? They don't operate on the same rules that I did when I was an underwriter and showing up to work on time every day, show up whenever they want to. And you can't really tell an artist how to do what it is they've been doing for 20 years, because they're already stuck in that way and they've got, all the reasons why they do it that way. But that's another thing I had to learn about artists versus the daily public that wakes up to an alarm clock and shows up to work on time.
That's awesome.
Artists are different.
I think we're out of time, but like I said, man, I appreciate you coming on The Creative Entrepreneur. You're an inspiration to me and our listeners, and I'm so happy to have had you on the show. You were exploding, and I'm so happy for you, and I'm very proud of you for doing what you do.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. It's great to meet you. I just met you a few days ago, actually. Just at my last show.
I know. It's great to meet you, too.
Yeah, thank you, Cowboy Jerry, for calling him over saying, hey, you taking pictures over there? Come take a picture of us. Good
that
old
reminds
Cowboy
me,
Jerry.
He wants to do a video. I have to get with him.
Yeah, good old Cowboy Jerry.
Your continued support for this channel gives us the opportunity to bring new guests and help women, veterans, and minority-owned businesses gain some insight on the successes and failures of other entrepreneurs. If you have not already done so, please subscribe and share. Help us build this platform to help other aspiring entrepreneurs.
Thank you for listening to The Creative Entrepreneur. Please click the show notes for additional information. Want to know more? Click on the subscribe button and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter by visiting us at tcepodcast.net.